Hey everyone, it's Erin Kerry. Welcome back to Sparking Wholeness. Today we have a really fun episode for you. We are going to be talking all about one of my favorite topics aside from perimenopause, which is ADHD. And I'm sitting here with Amy Jones. She is a certified functional nutrition practitioner, registered holistic nutritionist, certified ADHD life coach, certified teacher, holistic nutrition instructor, hello, and Masters of Applied Neuroscience candidate. Through Amy Jones Nutrition, she helps neurodivergent adults, overwhelmed women, and families understand the connection between food, energy, mood, executive function, nervous system regulation, and daily life. Her work blends functional nutrition, ADHD coaching, teaching experience, and lived experience as a late diagnosed ADHD woman and mom of two neurodivergent kids. After years of mental health struggles that never fully made sense, her late ADHD diagnosis became a major turning point, helping her understand her own brain more clearly and eventually leading her to change careers, return to school, and build a business around the kind of support she wishes more women had access to earlier. That's amazing. Amy, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. I am so honored to be here today. Thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be such a fun conversation. Like I said, ADHD is one of my favorite topics. I said before we started recording, of all of the labels I was given, it was probably the one that was the most accurate and the one that was the most missed because we weren't diagnosing girls with ADHD in the 1900s, right?
No. And
It
that
wasn't a
sounds
thing.
so like, yeah, 1900s now sounds so far away,
Right.
but it wasn't that far away.
Yeah, and then you yourself had a late diagnosis of ADHD.
I did after, oh gosh, my entire life of being diagnosed with pretty much everything else other than ADHD. And I know you can relate to this too, but I think that was such a huge eye-opening. Oh, it was a gift when it happened, but it took years and years of struggle and trying to understand myself and trying to understand what I needed, and then battling once I figured out my children had, and this is so often, we see this so often, obviously, had one, my youngest has ASD and ADHD, and my oldest has SPD. And, you know, seeing that and making those connections was life transforming. And especially because of the journey that I've been through with my own mental health. And it was, yes, there was grief involved in this because my gosh, if I had known earlier, where would I be right now? But I'm happy with where I am right now. But at the same time, what a disservice we have done, so many of us in our generation, in the 1900s. And I battled anxiety, I battled depression. I went through periods I couldn't work, I couldn't function. I was diagnosed with anxiety, BPD. I love that title too, borderline personality disorder. Like, also,
Oh,
what is that?
talk about
And then, what
stigma.
does that
Yeah.
even mean? And also, what?
Mhm.
And then also, major depressive disorder, and I couldn't function for periods of time, and all of it. And I had to fight for when I realized, like, maybe the source of this could be, I mean, and not necessarily the source, but there could be a connection to ADHD because I was labeled medication resistant,
Mm.
because I went through ECT. Um, and it made me hallucinate, and it didn't do anything for me. And I remember laying there in the hospital, after they had, just before they put you out and they put the electrodes on your brain. And I asked the particular psychiatrist at that point, I said, why does this work? And he said, we don't even know, but it does. And I was like, what? But this is the journey that I've been through with my mental health. And then and I had to battle for this ADHD diagnosis. And I still don't think my actual psychiatrist is like happy about it, but I had to really push. But it makes so much sense to me because as soon as I understood it better, as soon as I was given the opportunity to understand my own brain with a different lens
Yes.
than whatever else was given to me before, like my whole world opened up. I went back to school. I'm able to support my children. I'm always going back to school. I love I'm like on fire. Like I'm so excited for life. And before it was just like I was drudging and like just was so hard just to do anything. This is completely a different world for me with that diagnosis. And but I love this is like you can tell. Can you tell that I love doing what I do every day? Yeah.
I love that. It's interesting that you mentioned being treatment resistant. I think that, and this is just kind of it's a little bit of a tangent for me, but looking back at how I responded to the different psychiatric medications that they gave me, I've often wondered, I'm like, I wasn't the issue. It wasn't my problem, me having all of these side effects and not responding well to this, and then feeling super zoned out and dissociated on this one. And then this one gave me, all the things. It was not what I needed. I had a very dysregulated nervous system, which I would love to get into. I had some trauma that was manifesting in worse symptoms, right? And then I would have these periods of burnout, periods of like creativity, impulsivity. I would crash. And so, yeah, on paper, it looked like bipolar disorder. I think I had some neuroimmune issues going on there too around the same time. Yeah, lots of like connected to mononucleosis, the same time as I was having these crazy mood spells. So like there's a lot of puzzle pieces that were missed. And I think one of my favorite things about having this podcast and talking to people like you is it helps other people advocate for themselves. And they're like, wait a minute, I have been on this SSRI for however long and it's never really working for me. And I keep having to up my dose or whatever the medication is. Right. And going, wait, well, maybe it's not the medication. Maybe you just haven't been given the right support. And looking, so that's what I want to get into today is what is the right support and how do we support the nervous system of somebody with ADHD? Because it's a different kind of nervous system, right?
Yes. Oh, so the other piece of this before we get into that, I think, is that yes, I went back to school. I have my, functional nutrition certification, uh, deep into nutrition and health and wellness. I've always lived there, but I think the biggest gap that I noticed was between yes, we can know what we should eat, and we can get into some of those things or what think we should be doing, right, based on what everyone else is telling us. But it's the how. It's also it's the behavioral piece. So there is a huge physiological or biological reason behind so much of behavior, but then there's also the how piece. And that's where like I went to do my ADHD life coaching certification and I'm doing my master's in applied neuroscience because of this, because it's the behavioral piece. I think, especially with ADHD, there's so much around we can know the what, but we don't know the how, or we don't understand that the how is actually what's holding us back. And it's not us in terms of like, moral or values based thing. Like there's nothing wrong with us in that way. It's more like we don't have the access in and figuring out that accessibility is really important. And now I forget what your question was.
No, it ties in. The question was that the the ADHD brain has a different type of nervous system than
Mhm.
neurotypical brain. And that does play
Yes.
into the things that we're supposed to be doing that don't always get done in the same way as what a neurotypical, person with a
Yeah.
linear brain
Yeah.
would do. And that's eating. It makes healthy habits, whatever, you want to say that those are, really difficult because I think that there is a need for the here and now, right? Like I know for me, like if I'm busy, if I have a busy, I'll forget to eat, I'll forget to pee. I'll get focused on something. And then by the time I'm hungry, my blood sugar has crashed and I just need like a hit of glucose, whatever that would be.
Yeah.
Right. And I think and I see that in one of my kids for sure. And which is also what caused me to do the deep diving on myself and my own stuff. But I think that that's really common. And we don't talk about that enough.
No, that nervous system piece, I think, and that's where the sensitivity that I have, especially, I also have a teaching background too. I was a high school teacher for a number of years before, but um, there, that's where that sensitivity is so wonderful that we have with ADHD, but at the same time, it can be so depleting because it requires when our nervous system is so activated. So it's in that fight or flight or freeze on mode. it depletes so many nutrients. We burn through so many different nutrients, vitamins and minerals, um, at a rate that is like, I don't even know. I don't even have the numbers around this, but it is just so much. And so we end up, our energy is depleted very quickly. So even if we were to eat a really great breakfast, and it could be balanced, it maybe has protein and it has fat and has fiber, has all the things that like help us stick. We might burn through that depending on what might be happening in our day, um, with our nervous system, and then our nervous system reacts to this. So our lovely adrenals, who are pumping out all of the cortisol and norepinephrine and all the things, they have to react as soon as we burn through that fuel. They react as if it is another stress response, that there's something happening. We could be sitting at our desk and that's what's happening inside our body. We don't even know. Um, and that's often where we can see it can be behavioral. And we definitely see this. I see this all the time with my own children as well. I think their systems are much more sensitive to ours. And if we're women, we're used to masking or just pushing it away somewhere,
For sure.
um, as well. So there's that piece. So as soon as that, this is part of the work that I do with my own clients, is that we have to figure out what's that cue? Like what's going on in your body? Where do we, and really, it takes a lot of questions and nobody likes me when I ask them, but over and over and pushing to figure out where is that cue, because we don't often even sense it in our body because of our interoceptive awareness is a little bit, not for all of us, but can be dulled a little bit. So we might not even get that cue, that in like physiological cue that we're hungry or tired, or maybe we should refuel. Um,
Hmm.
so then we end up flipping into that stress state, and then we crash big time in terms of our blood glucose regulation, and then that's where mm, fatigue, all kinds of things. And especially if, we're not eating consistently throughout the day, this is where we're going to see this problem, but it affects our nervous system in a way that I think we don't appreciate enough. Um, and that's what I think we need to be protecting, right? Is our nervous system, especially if you're coming
Yeah.
from a history of mental health and you've struggled and like that protection is so important, because we need to, it's like we're retraining our body. Our bodies are amazing, right? They always want to come back to homeostasis. They always want to come back to balance. It's always trying to get there. It's trying so hard. And if we can let it get back there slowly, so we can support that nervous system through regular eating, then it will come back. It will come back. It will do it. Our bodies are amazing, but we need to give it the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and that takes intentionality and it takes a little bit of executive function, right? What would that look like? What are some ways to support nutrition that's low effort? That's, I mean, and I'll say one thing that has saved us in recent years, just for one of my kids, because all this that you're describing, I think parents who have kids with ADHD are like, yep, yep, yep. Like, I see all of this. Is those meat sticks, like Chomps beef sticks
Yes.
or whatever. Those things
Love.
have really saved us when I can tell we're about to have a crash out because of that depletion you spoke of. Absolutely, 100% know what that looks like. For adults, it's less, socially acceptable to have those crash outs. So we have to have that awareness to know, oh boy, I'm feeling off, anxiety's picking up. And so like that's one thing for me. I know I always have on hand, even though I get sick of them, which is a whole other thing to talk about. Is like just getting sick of the same old things. So what do you do like with your clients and recommending that's low effort things to have on hand that are fueling, that will get the brain feeling regulated again?
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I love the Chomps is like my favorite. Well, I'm in Toronto in Canada, and Chomps it's a tough one to get right now. It used to be really easy,
Oh,
much harder. We do have something called Nick sticks, which I really
yeah,
love.
I've seen those. Mhm.
So and really when we're talking about those things, the reason why we're talking about it is because they are low in nitrates and nitrites, and they're not made with necessarily, all of the hormones that would be, unstabling to could, just some of us are sensitive to. So I think this is why we're talking about these specific products. And I know that more and more as we are talking about these things and getting it out there, that this is, really important around that piece. That's the nutrition side of it too. But that's exactly it. So I always lead with, my gosh, I have my whole family. We call it PFF is your BFF. So
Yep.
protein, fat, and fiber is your best friend. Okay.
Hmm.
Always. So if you can grab, so especially when nervous system regulation is a struggle, uh, I'm thinking of a situation with my own son yesterday who I don't, we still haven't even figured out exactly what the problem was, but he had a full meltdown. He's almost 10. His birthday is this week. So there's a lot of sensory stuff. There's a lot of emotions around this. And everyone always feels like, oh, but it's your birthday. You should be happy. But to him, it's overwhelming. Right. Um, and he's not sure how to manage it. And so he was melting down until a very late hour last night. And part of me was like, oh my gosh, what, like my nervous system is activated and like, my gosh, maybe he just needs like a cheese stick. Do you know what I mean? Or
Oh
like
yeah.
thing
Yeah.
like chunks or something, just something that has a level of some protein or fat or fiber. He loves raspberries. That's one of his
Mm.
favorite things.
My little one does too. Yeah.
Yeah, right? And so like and with raspberries, like yes, there's sugar, but there's an inordinate amount of fiber in
So much
raspberries, which is
fiber.
wonderful.
Hmm.
And all of those things, what they do is slow. So like protein helps to slow the uptake of any sort of sugars that we're eating into our bloodstream. And that just makes sure that the slower the whatever the glucose is that comes from our food gets into our bloodstream, it just slows down how quickly it gets up. And that means if we crash later, that crash is not as intense.
Yes.
And then the same with fat. So fat slows gastric emptying. So that just makes sure that everything is just a bit slower, right? We just want to slow everything down in terms of how we're digesting that food. And then the fiber is going to feed, yes, good gut bacteria, but it also slows everything down. So even those raspberries, even though they have sugar, fruit is not evil.
Yep.
It's going to slow, right? It's just going to slow the uptake of all of those things. And they're full of nutrients and all the things we need. So it's about this slow, right? Rather than the refined, all of the things that we talk about, because those things are going to spike us. And my kids know too, yes, you can have chips. I'm very happy for you to have chips, but what, what's your PFF that's going to go with that? To balance your blood glucose levels, because that's when we have that tanking, right? Um, so I think it's more about like the how, this is the how, it's part of the how, but really understanding a lot of this. And coming back to that situation with my son last night, it was just like, let's just have a cheese stick. And then, but as soon as he had it, my nervous system changed. Like,
Yeah, that's real.
right? I was like, oh, like this makes sense. And like, how did I not see it sooner? But it's because our nervous systems are so activated by our children that it's hard to regulate within that. And that takes a lot of work for all of us. And I'm not an expert at this by any means, and I don't ever do it perfectly, but I think it's more about, gosh, the reward of that, like the win of that was, it felt like, oh my gosh. And then everything just came down, because blood sugar probably tanked for him. I don't know how many hours it was he ate ago. Baseball practice, we had all the stuff and that's really important. So that's really where I think my focus is professionally too, is about looking at like, where is the spacing of fuel? Where is it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's so powerful for us as parents to be learning this alongside of our children. And so, because so many of us, we didn't learn this growing up and we weren't even aware that, and I still talk to a lot of my own clients that like had no idea that food was playing a role in any way they felt mentally. We just don't, we're not raised thinking that way. And so the fact that we can have this knowledge to pass down to our kids, it also is helpful for us because it's that reminder of, okay, if this is true for them, it's probably true for me too. I'm just maybe suppressing those signals, or I've learned to get by. I think that there are a lot of women out there who have just gotten by, and to your point, or masked, right? Like they've been masking their symptoms for so long, and so they are exhausted and they hit these burnout points, like I just don't even know why I don't feel like myself. And some of it has to do with figuring out just tools to nourish the nervous system, and not because it's a diet and not because it's a wellness rule, because we got plenty of those, but just that basic support for the body to feel safe.
That body to feel safe. Like I felt that in my own body because that's the work we're doing and we have to reteach it to feel safe because for some of us, it has never felt safe. And that could
Right.
be because of trauma. That could be because of, just moving through a world that doesn't, I don't know, that we're supposed to move through, but always feels like it's so hard. That is a lot. That is a lot. Especially, like, imagine our little loves walking around and everything is so hard. And then they come home and they're a mess and a puddle on the floor. Of course they are. Of course. Like it's so hard just to do the thing that they're supposed to do and they feel like they should. And I think this is such a mom thing too, is that there's so many shoulds around, women and what we should be doing, and especially around food and preparing meals and what we think is the right way and why can't we do it and what breaks down. And then all of the shame that comes with it is horrendous. And this is half of the thing, half of the battle that I really have to break down with the clients that I work with because it's so ingrained in our history, in our own mental health that it then impedes like how we actually deal with food or how we relate to food. And then our kids pick up on that too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and the overwhelm of, the meal prepping and the grocery shopping, the list. Honestly, I don't know what I would do for grocery shopping if my husband did not help me with my list every week. Like he helps make the
Right?
list. He's like, here's some ideas for meals. What do you think? I'm like, cool, that sounds great to me. Just tell me so I can do the Instacart order. And then it's done and it's there. Because otherwise, that is so overwhelming for me. Even today, I had to make an orthodontist appointment for one of my kids. Did not want to make that. I mean, just the act of calling the doctor just felt like such a burden. And that's how meal planning feels. And that's true for women who don't have ADHD. That's true for all of us because we sure do, like you said, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to make it a certain way. So how do you minimize that overwhelm with people when it comes to things like, yeah, the grocery shopping and the lists making and the cooking, and yeah, where do you go with that?
Oh, that's a big one. But I love that you are doing a little bit of like, I guess delegating, but also co-regulation in a way, I
Body
think.
doubling. Yeah.
Kind of, because,
Yeah.
if you're, and one of the things that we do in our family too is we have, gosh, not to promote brands, but like a Google Home system, or
Hmm.
like if you have Alexa or something like that.
Yeah.
We have an ongoing grocery list that gets added to list on my phone app so that I can see it if I'm at the grocery store, or my husband can see it if he's there, and my kids can add to it. They just say, "Hey," and away they go. You know what I mean? And they can add things to it, and we can add because when I'm in the middle of the kitchen, if I have to stop and add something to the grocery list, I'm not going to do it. And then I always think, "Oh,
Right.
I'll remember because I'll know." No,
Mm-mm.
no, you will not. No, absolutely not. And so that's a really big, so finding ways that are, especially for me, because I know, gosh, I'm very visual, but I also know I'm very auditory in terms of my learning style. So I have to make sure that I'm accessing all of those things. Um, I'm just thinking about the grocery store right now. I know this is probably not answering your question, but even like sometimes I'll take a picture of what's in my fridge or in my
That's
pantry,
smart.
before I go to the grocery store because I never remember. I'm like, did we? Do we? And yes, I know there's layers to say some of these cupboards or when you open the fridge, but like at least there's a visual reference and it can help my working memory, especially with ADHD around some of the struggles with that. So that's a real thing. Like, why are we doing that? Why isn't that normalized? Like, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because half the time I'll stand in the aisle and be like, what was I doing here? So let's just like facilitate and support whatever we can. So I think there's so many different layers to that question that you asked. And I don't know if I hit on all of them, but I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming up with some kind of a quick tool, like you said, like the group note. I love that the family can all participate with. I think that that's huge. Taking a picture of the refrigerator, the pantry, any of those things. I think that's helpful. I'm laughing because I don't remember when it was recently. I was ordering things on Instacart. Well, of course, I'm mid order. Something happens. Sure, don't click or check out button. Like I don't click that. And so I thought I had ordered the groceries, did not. It's just
Oh,
little things like that
those
because
little
something else is going
things.
on at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
just a lot for just the mental load of being a woman over 35. Many of us are moms, many of us are working moms, that there's just a lot that we are carrying and holding up for everybody. So yes, so if you have a system that can make it easier, like you said, or a spouse to help out with, I know a lot of women don't have that either, but like even the kids reach a certain age where like can contribute to the grocery list. I love that idea. I think that that's really
Yeah.
helpful. And what about mealtime and actually making meals less stressful?
hmm So definitely for this, and this is where I live and love, and especially for moms, because this is who I am too, is how do we, figure out, especially for a lot of us who, I think now for us in Toronto, we have, there's been a big wave of everybody going back to work that was working online
Mhm.
post COVID.
Yeah.
And so there's this new wave of people who've been at home and have had time to plan or think ahead, or, have more time to think in the moment and maybe without that same level of stress. And so now everyone's going back and it's really stressful and we're forgetting about, what we used to do before. But I think and what it does to our nervous system. So especially when you've made 1 bazillion decisions all day and then you come home and then you have to, and gosh knows what's happening with your children, especially with activities, post school, post work, whatever might be happening. There's so much in that routine. And then if we haven't already thought of or planned out something for dinner, or this is the other catch, if we have had an especially difficult day, or if we come home and one of our children or our children in general have had especially difficult day and there's a lot of emotional load, that's going to affect our nervous system. That's going to affect our capacity to do what we thought we could do, let's say at 5 p.m. to make dinner, right? Or to put something together. And we don't give ourselves enough leeway. We don't give ourselves enough appreciation and understanding around this. I talk a lot about capacity and understanding, like level 1, level 2, level 3 kind of thing. So level 1 is like, I literally have had the worst day, or my day wasn't horrible. I'm tired, but my kids had the worst day ever and I need to be there to support. That is the day that I really focus on in the work that I do with others to support. We figure out something that's a default that you always have. So it's always on your grocery list. So if you order groceries, it's always on your grocery list. And it could be like a rotisserie chicken. It could be a bag salad. It could be um, pre-prepared, I don't know, potatoes or whatever the kids like too, like whatever it is. This is not about, perfect clean eating or being on a diet. This is about actual like food that people will eat that is like accessible nourishment, um, and figuring out to make sure we always have this default. And then on those days, we can defer. Wow, today is a level 1 day. I have my default. I don't have to stress out about it. Like, I just got chills in my own body because it's like, wow, it's all right. I don't have to stress out about that. I can pay attention to my children, or myself, whoever needs the work, the support in that moment. Like, that's what we're building around. And then we can think about level 2, which might be like, I can do this or that, or maybe we're rushing off to do something with the family. And then level 3 might be like, depending on your schedule, could be a weekend, could be whatever, where you actually have time and you want to take time to enjoy the actual preparation of that meal. Like, for me,
Yep.
that's a big deal. I love this. And this is what's been so frustrating with my own journey too, is because I have ADHD, but I love nutrition. I love cooking. I love food. I love all of the things, but like, my gosh, it's really hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
really hard to have time to actually enjoy it. So that's my level 3. And I always make sure at least I have 1 day of level 3 as much as possible. That's not always possible with my young boys, but at the same time, it, understanding those capacity levels and building defaults for the level 1 days where you have
So
nothing,
level
where
one days are
everything's going
no
down.
capacity. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
no capacity. Level 1 is
Mm-hmm.
like no capacity. You have nothing left, or you're thinking like, yep, I can do level 2, or even I could do even level 3 today. But then you come home and your kids are melting down and you can't,
Mm-hmm.
like, that
Mm-hmm.
changes your capacity, right? So it's more about really tuning in and understanding that this is okay, taking away any shame that might be like, but I should be able to whip up a gourmet dinner, even though my kid is crying in the corner. No, that's not a thing. So it's more looking at how do we build for those harder pieces, those harder days.
That is so, so relatable, so helpful. I think something else that can pop up, and I don't know if so much if this is an ADHD or like an ADHD thing, it's that all or nothing thinking, especially when it comes to food rules, food perfection, all of that. And I want to give listeners permission to get the bagged salad, what you just said there, like you have permission to throw together a bagged salad and rotisserie chicken and call it dinner. Like there are nutrients there. Like I think that that is really freeing what you just said. And I even because I went through my years of no seed oils, like really strict about things, and then I was like, gosh, I don't know, the stress of making my own dressing feels like a whole lot of work on a day where it's a level 1 day, and so sometimes the plastic bag salad with the plastic dressing with the seed oils is what happens, and it's okay, and we can give our body can handle a little bit of toxicity, right? Like it's okay. And so I think just giving ourselves permission takes the nervous system freak out of the equation. And my thing I always say is the body in stress won't digest. And if we're stressed out about what we're making, how we're eating it, what we're eating, like it doesn't matter at that point. It's like, what are you even digesting? So the bag salad is a perfect example because, full disclosure, I threw together a bag salad a few weeks ago, and one of my kids, I've never seen him eat salad the way he ate salad with that bag salad. So
Right?
yeah. So I think there's
Love it.
things like that we just draw these like really hard lines, and like, is it worth it? Is it worth the energy? And sometimes it is, like omega threes, I'll draw a line there, and protein and fiber, I will draw lines there. Like we are going to try to include those as much as we can. There are other things that I think that there's a balance, right?
And I think and that's why I always think about, like, for me, it's this idea of accessible nourishment. So
Yes.
how do we make it accessible, especially with ADHD or any sort of, neurodivergence? If it's not accessible, you're not going to eat it. What's worse? Right? So
Yeah.
to me, it makes more sense to eat the food that actually is going to provide you nutrients than not eat the food that is going to make your blood sugar tank and your stress hormones rise. And then is going to perpetuate, gosh, there's so many other things in here. And then, the other part of it is that if we are not properly nourished because we didn't have accessible nourishment, because maybe we're feeling, especially as women, like we need to have only need a certain amount of foods or eat this way or whatever the restrictions are that we've, lived with for years and years, we end up undernourished and then we crash and then we're standing in front of the pantry like a raccoon at 9 p.m. and and we'll just eat all the things, especially if you have kids and there are things in there that you wouldn't necessarily normally eat. You will eat them. You will eat
Absolutely.
them.
Yep.
So, but that's what we're trying, like, and that's data for our brains. Like that's data for us, especially as health and wellness coaches is like, what is that behavior telling us? It's telling us that you were underfueled throughout the day. That is not something that you did wrong or that you have a lack of willpower over. Like, I hate that word. There's no such thing
Preach.
as
Mm-hmm.
willpower. No such
Mm-hmm.
thing. I don't believe in it. It is about you were underfueled. And so if we start our day and we build our day with, good solid protein, fat, and fiber, your BFFs, as much as we can. And that's hard with ADHD because a lot of us wake up and we're not hungry because our circadian rhythm
Yeah.
is a little different. Our metabolism is always a little bit inconsistent. It's built that way for a reason because our brains are built in this way for a reason. And so we can't always trust that we can do that. Sometimes I will say, and I hate this because it sounds like it's like the suck it up mentality, but it's like, you got to take your medicine. Like at 3 p.m., when we're crashing, please just eat 4 almonds. I don't care if you hate almonds, as long as you're not allergic to them. Just eat them because that is going to be the difference between you coming home and, yes, you're still going to be stressed or exhausted, but you're not necessarily you're going to have a bit of a baseline. You're not necessarily going to be in reaction mode, right? And be reactive and, you know, your behavior might not be as erratic if you had those 4 almonds at 3 p.m. than if you didn't, right? So it's about how do we manage fuel throughout the day with ADHD. Um, and what are your patterns? Like everyone is different. So some people don't have that. Some people love breakfast. Some people, whatever it is. And I think the biggest thing is that the way that I think about it is that we just like we throw out breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to be honest with you, and it just becomes mini meals throughout the day. They have to be big and it can look like anything you want. Sometimes be half your dinner for breakfast or
Totally.
same thing. But we look at timing and we start to really train where your brain starts to fall off, like really tuning back into our body, learning to retrain our brain to do that, and understand where we start to fall off in terms of brain function and physiological function, the fatigue, whatever it might be, frustration, irritability, mood, all of those things. And then we build in a system that actually works for you. And it doesn't have to be like you're eating a full roast chicken and mashed potato or whatever it is at
Yeah.
any one time. It's more about we have to spread this out because that is what tells your nervous system that you are safe,
Yeah. Consistency is safety to the nervous system. And so
right?
getting that consistent input
Uh-huh.
tells the nervous system, it's okay. You're running out of nutrients, but I'm getting them back again.
Yeah, but they're going to come,
Mm-hmm.
And you do it one day and maybe you don't do it the next day. Maybe the next day falls off. That's okay. And then let's do it. We're going to try to do it again the next day. Maybe the next day is great. And then, or maybe it's kind of great. And then the next day might not be. And then the next day is great. That is consistency,
Yes.
right? And I think this is where a lot of us fall off because we're like, yes, I'm going to do this. And then we fall off the next day. And then we try and then and everyone's like, I just can't do it. And I'm like, but you're doing it. That is what this looks like. That is consistency. Your nervous system is going to notice this. It's just, we're just doing a little bit better each day, right? That 1% better. I love that.
Yeah, I like that too, just a little bit. Because I think things change. Seasons, like you mentioned, seasons with kids, it's like you go from the little kid season to the older kid, where all of a sudden they have all these activities and practices to go to. And then we have like summer that changes. And that I've been so thrown off my routine since my kids got out of school. And it, like, of course, being the type of person I am to myself, I want to bully myself into changing, right? Get it together. What is wrong with you? Why are you so off? All these negative things but it's like, no, wait a minute. Things have shifted. I'm trying to find my new routine, trying to figure out where I'm going to include that intentional nourishment, movement, and work time. And oh my goodness, all these things. It's just in fluctuation right now, and that's okay. And I think being able to coach ourselves when our default is to bully ourselves is really helpful too.
Yes, that bully yourself. I think isn't that what we're just so used to that, right? We do that
Hmm.
all day, every day, and retraining that is really hard. And I know I do it all the time. And for us in Canada, our school system ends. There's my kids are still in school, so like in a week.
Wow. Okay.
And then we only go back in September. So I know that's different where you are, but
Yeah.
my nervous system is like so attuned because we also have to plan all of like the sports and the camps and all the things like in January. So I had to pre-plan, which is
Wow.
completely different than what their actual interests are now, which is so
That's
frustrating.
so true.
Um, I'm like, oh my God, please. And I'm just hoping and praying that everything goes well. But it is that it's like now I'm in that anticipation mode where I'm like, whoa, I know it's coming and I know this is not going to be pretty. And exactly what you just said in terms of this shift, it's like the anticipation of the shift. So there's these stages of capacity that we also have to recognize. Like I know I'm in this stage where I'm stressed because of I know there's going to be stress. Like what? But those are the layers of this. Do you know what I mean? And I think understanding a lot of this around how our nervous system works and how we respond to stress in our lives and other people's stress in our lives is really important, not just for food, but just for obviously like how we function in the world. No matter where we go, where am I right now? What capacity do I have? Can I do this? And then giving ourselves permission to take that step back. Like, nope, this is not the day for this. And allowing that to be real and true and to step into it with confidence because we don't, because we think moms should just be, we always see moms do everything. Moms can do it all. No, we're humans. Like that's not how it's supposed to be. And we're all struggling with it. And I think the more we talk about it and normalize it, I think that's literally going to have a widespread nervous system, like, I don't even know what to call it, like revolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I like it. Nervous system revolution.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you my favorite question to ask. So the name of the show is Sparking Wholeness. If you could give one piece of advice, just one, that would spark someone toward wholeness, what would that be?
So I think in terms of wholeness to me, it would be, I would say if you could think about your worst day, what that would look like and what you would have to do on that day in terms of food or supporting your kids or whatever it might be, and building one default meal right now when you have capacity. Right now, tell me the three: protein, the fat, the fiber. Build that. That becomes your default, part of your default grocery list. That is going to save you. And that's always something you buy. You just always know it's always at the top of the list or it's always in your whatever Instacart or whatever it is. So you always have it. That is the one thing I would do because that is going to take, I just felt my nervous system lower, just even talking about it, because then you at least have that, just
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that is so huge. And so whatever that looks like, no, for me, I'm thinking, well, we always have ground beef in the freezer just in case for those, because that's the easiest, quickest thing I can do. Tacos, I can do. Lately, my kids have been into Korean beef version of tacos, which is very fun because then you can add kimchi to it, which is a whole other flavor experience for
Yes.
the sensory seekers out there. So, but
Hmm.
yes, this has been so much fun. Where can people learn more about what you do and find out more information about you and your coaching work and all of that?
So my website, it's amyjonesnutrition.com. You can DM me there. You can have a look at some of the offerings I have. Um, I work one-to-one. I also have a system that I've built. It's kind of like a series of I guess, podcasts or videos, whatever you want to do, but you can pop around and look at some of the ways. Some of them are things like fridge architecture. So literally redesigning your fridge so that it makes things harder. It takes away some of the nervous system reaction when you open your fridge and you don't know what to do. Even things around cleanup. Cleanup is a big thing, definitely with ADHD. Like we don't even want to try because we know we're going to have to clean 8 million pans, right? So really looking at some of those things. So that's really helpful. Um, and then on Instagram is another way you can DM me, just Amy Jones Nutrition. Um, yeah, and I'd be happy to answer any questions or engage with anyone for sure.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a fun conversation. And I think it's been really helpful and practical. These are the real life tools that we need to get through, whether you have ADHD or you're just really stressed, because I think that what we've talked about applies, that PFF applies to everybody for sure, because we all have a nervous system and it can so often get thrown off. So thank you again for popping on the show and sharing all of your knowledge. And yeah, I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for I've sent so many of your uh, episodes to so many of my clients because this is this community of building this support that we're not alone in this. You know what I mean?
Totally.
And I think that is huge and so underestimated. So I'm so grateful that I got to be here today, but also just for
Yeah.
you doing what you do. So thank you.